What's up, Knucklehead? I am Lupine Fiasco, and this is your daily FaB gameplay. For anyone who's new to the channel, welcome to the jungle. What we do here is review replays of games that I played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my play. I'll talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the line I would take now compared to the line I took then at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the overall goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future to take down paper events like the upcoming US Nationals and, most importantly, walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you would like to check out the deck I'm playing here or try it for yourself on Talishar, there is a FaB deck link available in the video description below. While you're down there, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. A YouTube subscription is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. The best paid way to support me is through Patreon, and a Patreon link is also in the video description. A Patreon subscription will get you access to the DFG Discord and the shiny cardboard Talishar card back. At higher tiers, your name will appear in every DFG video. You'll get bonus DFG content every week, and there are even more benefits to come. Daily FaB gameplay will always be free 5 days a week, so for those who can afford to patronize me, I truly appreciate it. Now, let's talk about our sideboard and about our game plan. So, we come to the end of our first week of Part the Mistveil gameplay, which I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed playing against these new heroes. I think all three are interesting new takes on existing archetypes, and they are only getting more complex. Players are iterating on Zen. I think he is so close to having his own identity besides Worst Katsu. New has an exciting reaction-based playstyle that we haven't seen from Assassins. Enigma is an interesting mix of the best of Dromai and Prism, and we cannot play against her the same way we play against other illusionists. So I'm really enjoying sinking my teeth into this new content. Between the three heroes, New is the hero that I feel most comfortable against, honestly, at this point in the format. I have heard stirrings from other Kayo players that they feel New is a really difficult matchup, and I can certainly understand why someone might think that. She has a billion reactions, which is not a playstyle that Kayo is really comfortable playing against because Kayo historically doesn't play defense reactions. Maybe he plays a 1 or 2 of Reckless Swing, but that is more of a finisher than an actual game plan. Kayo can't play Sink Below or Fate Foreseen because they disrupt his ability to draw and discard 6 power attacks, where New only has attack reactions. Her equipment is fantastic for it. Her new legendary headpiece is a disruptive reaction. She has access to Flick Knives and Black Tech Whisperers. If she wants to play the new cards, Arousing Wave and Undertow Stilettos are both 2 reactions baked into 1. She has Hiss and Venomous Bite, which are both fantastic 2-for-1 reactions. She's getting +1 and Go Again off of her Fang Strike and Slithers. Outside of that, all of her attacks either do something potentially disruptive when they hit, or get even bigger if you've played a certain number of reactions, Bonds of Agony and Persuasive Prognosis being the standout attacks here. Just a Nick, the most memorable attack reaction that New brings to the table as a 0-cost +5 that banishes off the top. New is randomly drawing cards and gaining life based on Art of Desire, Body, Soul, Mind. She really is a lot to deal with. And what really changed this matchup for me is realizing that instead of putting myself into this mid-range mindset where I try to block with 2 cards and then get blown out by a reaction, and New takes one of the remaining cards in my hand and now I don't have a play, is realizing that I could just not block ever. And New has all these really cool reactions that if you treat them as attacks, they're all below rate. All of her attacks are like 1 for 3. Or 0 for 5 is cool, but it's only paired with a 1 power attack, and now it's like a 2 card 6, which is on rate, but below rate and on rate don't compare to Kayo, who's very far above rate. So what if we just never blocked anything? You can't get blown out by a reaction if you don't play into it. So for one thing, we want to go second. That is the standard play against Assassin. It lets us block on turn 0, which, as much as I just said don't block new, we can at least block on turn 0. In this game, I am using the Kayo sideboard plan. At this point, if you check my list on FaB, it does have an actual new sideboard plan, which is the Kayo game plan. We are on Sash, we are cutting Cast Bones, and we're bringing in Wild Ride. The reason being that we don't want to block and we don't want to set up. We want to be able to go with any hand that we draw at any point in the game. We are not going to block new. We are not going to put ourselves into a position where having a card taken from us ruins our turn. Now, if you find yourself in a spot where you have 4 cards, none of them have go again, you could think about blocking with one of those for 3, then new takes a card from your hand, and you get to pitch one of your remaining 2 cards to play the last remaining card. But for the most part, if new is going to take one of your cards, and you have 3 now, you can still make your play and then arsenal what's left. We are taking advantage of the fact that new plays on rate and Kayo plays above rate. If we are treating new as a numbers-based hero, Kayo has bigger numbers. That sounds very weird coming from a world with only Arachne and Uzuri, 2 heroes against which I really enjoy playing a mid-range game. But, as I said, new is a new take on a familiar hero, familiar archetype, and we need to adapt. So, I'm going to submit deck. This is my new experience over the last few days. I feel like it's pretty replicable. Maybe new changes as time goes on, and maybe what she brings to Nats is something that is more manageable for a mid-range plan, but I am going full aggro and see what that looks like. New on the play, we have a good and bad hand for dealing with whatever new can do. We have a wind-up, we can make an agility on turn 0. The problem is that our hand is full of 2-block blues, all of which will get banished by this stealth attack because of New's ability, and in doing so we're filling our banish with cards for her to play later. What I do want to keep is one of my agile wind-ups so that I can discard it on New's turn here to make an agility, which makes me think we're definitely blocking with the yellow wind-up. Do we want to block with a blue Mighty wind-up or a blue Smash Instinct? I don't want to give both because I do want to limit New's ammunition for later in the game, which makes me think that the correct play here is yellow Agile, blue Mighty as our blocks. And we probably are going to take some damage. I'm assuming that if New is playing this, instead of pitching it for a dagger, that she is actually anticipating it getting over the top of blocks. Just a nick, going to push it over by itself, and any other reaction is going to also push Double Trouble's actual text. New activating her mask is going to get her there. So we're going to banish our Smash Instinct. Unfortunately, we have just put 3 blues into our banish from New to use later. I don't know why I didn't block with the yellow Agile windup. That is just a mistake. We can see that we lost a Blood Rush Bellow and a Run Roughshod off the top of our deck as well. We're in trouble for more reasons than one. First, we just gave New a ton of ammunition for another, we just lost like a third of the blues in our deck, which is going to make paying for things later in the game really difficult. That's just variance. We really could not have played around that. We could have put our entire hand in front of the double trouble if we really wanted to be very heads up. I don't think that is correct, and I would have liked to avoid putting more blues into my Banish for New. She got there anyway, but it's kind of unfortunate variance to start off this game. And we're really hoping that those all red hands are not going to come back to bite us later. Here we draw 3 more blues, which thankfully they're not all going to be lost to discard or banish, but we are going to lose some of them. And again, we're really just feeling like these all red hands down the road are going to be a little troublesome. So we do play the Wild Ride and pitch the Wrecker Romp. At this point, we're just hoping to find a red, which we do. Thankfully, we are going to be able to play out this hand. I'm really not considering arsenaling this Bear Fangs or not attacking with Mandible Claw. Codex of Frailty is a card. It is real and it can hurt us. At this point, New has 1 attack in her discard, and it is not a good one. We even saw New block with a Codex because it is actively bad at this part of the game. So we are not worried about not having an arsenal here. We do just want to play cards as we draw them. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you know that I am a coward and I will never roll scabs unless not doing so would 100% lose me a game. That being said, we are just going to play a Swing Big and pitch a Wrecker Romp. We're going to Arsenal Swing Big number 2, keep Beast Within in our hand to have available for any Pulpings or Wild Rides that we draw into. A braver player would have rolled the scabs, gotten a 4, and then sent the second Swing Big as well. I am not a braver player. So here we have an attack that will affect the top of our deck and not our hand, and we do not care about it. Because looking at what we have in hand, these are 4 playable cards. We pitch the Beast Within to attack with Mandible Claw. We discard Mighty Windup to make 2 might and give the Claw go again. Then we pitch second Beast Within to attack with Runner. If we block this with a Beast Within, and that New then plays something like a Siren Song to potentially take this blue out of our hand, then we discard the Mighty Windup as a response, we make our might, and our play is just Swing Big for 9 and then Arsenal Runner. If New takes a card out of our hand, I guess suppose that's a bad example, honestly, because then we would have 2 Beast Withins and a Runner and only 1 action point. So I actually can see a world where we block this with a Beast Within. If New does not take a card out of our hand, then we lose out on 3 points of damage, but we at least blocked for 3. Instead, we would just attack with Runner, pitch Beast Within, discard Mighty Windup to make 2 might, and then ship it back to New. But there is only 1 card in New's deck that can take a card out of our hand. It is Siren Song. So I'm actually pretty okay with just not blocking, just taking damage, losing cards off the top of our deck, and pretty okay with that, honestly. There are worse things to happen to a person. See, New is not going to double transcend. She's going to single transcend, though, and use her reactions here in order to give this go again. I'm suspecting that the Chi is going to turn into a mask activation. Or, sorry, not a mask activation, a new activation. To play what is probably going to be Smash Instinct. It would be nice if I could look at my Banish Zone here, but I'm pretty skeptical that New would attack with a Wind Up. potentially thinking that Smash Instinct is going to intimidate away something that I'd like to block. At the same time, if I wasn't blocking earlier, I'm certainly not blocking now. We will just take 5 from the Smash Instinct, which is fine. We're going to come back in for 9 damage and 11 value overall. We could actually just play the Swing Big instead of the Runner, which I might actually like doing more. Okay, good. That does at least protect us from Command and Conquer or Leave No Witnesses, where we're getting 2 extra points of value now. And we could also put ourselves into a position where we make an agility and then get to play the Runner. New has the double reaction, which is going to give her a quicken. At the same time, I am pretty skeptical that she will actually be able to use it. She could just pass her turn to save the quicken from when she has a 5-card hand, but, like, good. We have a Persuasive Prognosis. New has no floating resources, no tunic available. The only reaction she could have that pushes this over the top of a single armor block is Just a Nick. And if she does have Just a Nick, that's pretty unfortunate for us. If she doesn't, then Scabskin Leathers here just covers the effect, and we get to convert a 4-card hand. And what that looks like is going to be Mandible Claw. Well, we'll see. If this is an attack, if this is Just a Nick in New's arsenal, then we lose one of these cards in our hand, and we can go from there. If it is not a Just a Nick, we don't know what it could be, but we at least suspect it could be a defense reaction, which makes me a little hesitant to send Pulping. So do we want to discard Wind Up at the end of New's turn? What that would look like for us then is the start of our turn, Agility breaks, play Runner by pitching our Assault and Battery, then probably pitch Pulping to play Pack Hunt. We get 3 more damage than if we instead Mandible Claw by pitching Assault and Battery, then discard Wind Up, make my Agility, give Claw go again, then play Pack Hunt. I'm fine missing out on 3 damage in order to keep this Runner and start chaining agilities together. We're going to have an agility on our next turn, and then if we do play the Runner, have an agility on the turn after that. We do just want to chain action points together. At this point, we don't have a reason to play Pulping when Pack Hunt is just as good. It's 6 damage either way. By pitching the Pulping, we keep it in our deck. We've already triggered Kayo this turn, so there is no benefit to discarding 2 Pulping. And here is where we start to run into trouble because we had so many blues at the start of the game. We have 4 reds here. And we could try to make a sash play, or we instead continue to not block and we play E-Strike to draw a card and hope to find a blue to try and put something together. We're just not going to block the Art of Desire here. We potentially lose a card. We definitely lose a card off the top of our deck. We potentially also give New a card and life. At this point, New has a Fang Strike and a Slither in hand. She chooses not to play the Slither. So, New hit a red, drew a card. We don't know what is in her arsenal. We do know that Slither doesn't block. I am guessing that Slither is the card in New's arsenal. We didn't block with Sash. I don't love breaking it and losing those 2 points of value. I also am fine just not having broken it, not using it here, and instead making the E-Strike play to try and find a blue. It is unfortunate that we aren't making Quicken because of Runner, and we continue to not find blues. So what we're going to do instead is we are going to play Runner from Arsenal by pitching Pulping and Pack Hunt for the purpose of arsenaling Wild Ride instead. I do want to have those action points in my arsenal if I can. And here we are just pressuring new. So we pitch Pulping Pack Hunt and put a Wild Ride in arsenal, and this is looking pretty good. Have another Art of Desire in hand. This confirms that Slither is in New's arsenal. We have 2 blues in hand, a Wild Ride in arsenal, and a Wild Ride in hand with a Beast within. This is looking like a pretty good Sash turn, and what that means is that I'm going to block with Savage Sash to get my 2 points of value. We will still lose the top card of our deck to Art of Desire. It is entirely possible that New will draw a card and gain a life. New does have a Tunic counter available to use her reaction, but I'm fine losing the top card of my deck. I don't want to give Scab Skins here in order to maybe prevent New from gaining 1 point of life, and in fact she doesn't. So we're going to break the Sash. We're going to open with Wild Ride from hand as opposed to from arsenal, just so that we don't accidentally discard this Wild Ride to the one in our arsenal. And we find an E-Strike on top. Perfectly happy sending that to discard. Getting another Codex out of New is big money. Do we attack with Mandible Claw or the Wild Ride in our arsenal? The answer is Claw, because I don't want Wild Ride to discard this blue from my hand. I want to use my 2 floating resources on the Mandible Claw, then use my blue from hand to play Wild Ride. We make sure that we have extra resources. We are also removing cards from our hand to increase our chance of discarding Beast Within, which we do. And in fact, we find another Wild Ride, which we are going to play out. There's a world where we just play Riled Up here for 6 and put an action point into my arsenal, but I think it's fine to gamble on the top card of our deck. If it is a 2-cost 6 that now gets discounted to 1, we can play it this turn. If it is, something that we draw a discard, then we arsenal a Riled Up. If we discard the Riled Up and find, maybe another Beast Within, for example, I'm perfectly happy putting that in arsenal. The only card that would be actively bad to find here is Wrecker Romp, but honestly, we're going to risk it for the biscuit. And we are paid off because we are the greatest Flesh and Blood players alive. The fabled 5-link Kayo turn. Call me New because I have transcended. We do snipe the Slither from New's arsenal. New is just going to pass it back to us. And we have a few options. We could Mandible Claw by pitching Run Roughshod, then discarding Mighty Windup to give it go again, and then sending E-Strike. That is a solid 11 damage turn where we make 2 mites. We could also just send packing for 7, discard Mighty Windup to make 2 mites into Arsenal E-Strike. Do we want to send more damage up front, or do we want to put an action point in our arsenal? And this is a situation where I do want to put an action point in my arsenal. I'm not confident that we can kill New here. She has 4 cards in hand plus 3 pieces of blocking equipment left. Let's just continue to hold tempo, as New is going to need to address this send packing in some way. We're going to make 2 mites, and we are going to put an action point into our arsenal. Unfortunately, we do only snipe a Transcend instant from New's arsenal, and she does have the Sink Blow to hold on to it. So we might have set her up for something on her next turn, not that she couldn't have played the blue anyway. But at the very least, we might have just given her blue pit. So in hindsight, not the best line. At the same time, We have an E-Strike in our arsenal, and we're holding on to a pretty solid hand. We have another persuasive prognosis, and we are in a weird spot. So we don't want to block from hand because we never want to block from hand. At the same time, this is a really good hand. This is a good opportunity to block with Flesh Bag. You get one of these two cards. The question is, are we also blocking with Bone Breaker to cover 4? And what covering 4 does for us is New can no longer use Spring Tunic to pay for a Hiss or a Venomous Bite. Both of those cards give an additional reaction if New has pitched a blue, but because Flesh Bag is taking one of these two cards, New can't do that. She can only get 3 points from the Hiss or the Venomous Bite. She can't get 4. And I don't believe she has any other reactions that could get over the top of 4 blocks besides Just a Nick. If we Fleshbag Bonebreaker and she has Just a Nick, that's pretty bad for us, honestly. But it would be helpful if I could check her discard here. I believe we have seen 2 at this point. So Fleshbag Bonebreaker is putting her on 1, having drawn it between these 2 cards, and 2, getting to keep it after the Intimidate. I would 100% take that chance now by blocking with Fleshbag and Bonebreaker, because if she doesn't have exactly Just a Nick, we probably win this game on the spot. We get to Blood Rush, pitch a blue to do it, hold on to a Sandpacking or a Bare Fangs. We have an E-Strike that is going to convert maybe a red in our hand to 5 with Go again, and let us hold on to a blue to play the Sandpacking or the Bare Fangs. We have floating resources from Mandible Claw. I would absolutely block 4 and take the chance that New does have the Just a Nick, because if she doesn't have exactly that, she loses. I'm playing around with the idea. At this point, I remember this game. So at this point, I am missing crucial information because I don't know exactly what Hiss and Venomous Bite do. I don't remember that she has to pitch a blue to get the additional effect. So in my head, I'm thinking if she has a Fang Strike as well, and this is 5, then she gets over the top of Fleshbag Bonebreaker, and we lose our Bonebreaker value. At the same time, we also could have blocked with Scabskin Leathers to cover that effect if the card was if Hiss was much better than it actually is. But we get punished for this line because, frankly, I just didn't know what the card does. We lose our blue, which is pretty tragic. We do still get a turn. Thankfully, we have an E-Strike in Arsenal, which we can send for 5 Go again, buffed up to 7, and then we can pitch Sandpacking to play Bare Fangs. But New also gained 2 life off of that prognosis. If it didn't hit, she stays at 5, and we do just win the game. New just covering up damage. We're going to send Bare Fangs, hopefully for 8. We do hit the 8. Unfortunately, we do discard a Wild Ride to get there. We at least get New's Headpiece. So still at a pretty good life lead. Drawing into another Blood Rush. Is going to let us push some big damage this turn, hopefully letting us convert that into a win. We draw into a pretty unfortunate hand. We're starting to find those reds again that we had pitched at the start of this game, and I believe we have another Pulping on top of our deck at this point based on some pretty tragic pitch stacking. So what I might like doing here is sending Mandible Claw, then Bare Fangs. We send 15 damage and we keep action points in our deck. But I don't believe at this point I was keeping track of my pitch stack. So it just did not occur to me that we could find another red. Now we do instead find a blue. Unfortunately, we are one resource short of being able to Mandible Claw and Wild Ride. I am pretty happy sending Mandible Claw here though and holding on to the Wild Ride. I don't agree with this line because this doesn't just win us the game. We get 3 cards from new instead of the 2 that we would have gotten from the Mandible Claw, but we don't have action points, and that is the issue we run into here, where new can just pass, and I don't roll Scabskins because I'm a coward, and having a Wild Ride in Arsenal would have been really good for just trying to win the game. Probably does win us the game. Instead, new survives with 3 cards between her hand and Arsenal. We're going to Arsenal a run Roughshod, which we now can't play because we haven't discarded anything. We're still going to take the Spider Bite damage. Looking at our deck sizes here, Fatigue is definitely on the table. So I don't mind just holding cards. We should probably block this. Again, I'm not going to. I think that's fine. Okay, look at that, we do. New is going to get to Transcend, which is going to let her potentially affect the top of our deck. But at least this is not pushing damage, and on our turn, we can just send a Smash Instinct. Again, a braver player would be rolling Scabs here and probably winning the game. For my thinking is that if we roll a 1, it's just catastrophic. We lose. We can't let new hold on to all of these cards, and with her being so low on life, at the very least, we can force her to give us 2 cards in return. I just did a discard check for Wild Ride, but we still have Pulpings in the deck. Here, looking at Double Trouble, if new pitches any card to her gloves, she will turn on Double Trouble, give it that plus power, and banish the top cards of our deck. The thing is, we don't care because this Pulping is probably going to win us the game. Now, notably, we do have a miss left in our deck. We are holding on to. There's a Blood Rush Bellow somewhere in our deck. So we don't just win by playing Pulping. We aren't guaranteed. At the same time, I feel pretty good about it. We should probably block this with some armor just to get use out of our armor. But as far as the Double Trouble just effect, we don't care. We have the life total to give, we have cards in deck, and we have a win con in Pulping. Just in case, on the off chance that we, discard our remaining Blood Rush Bellow, we're in a little trouble. But we are going to pitch a blue to play the Pulping. We will have a 66% chance not to discard Blood Rush Bellow, even if we do draw it. So I feel fine. Just a nick, not turning on the Double Trouble effect, but is just representing 5 more damage. We lose a Pack Hunt from the top of our deck. I believe the next card on top is a Pulping, not a Blood Rush Bellow. We see that is the case, and Pulping has Go Again and Dominate. New does not have a D-React in Arsenal to stuff the Go Again. I don't think she has her +1 gain a life Transcend instant available. We see that is not the case, so we do just get the win. Kind of a close-ish game, though it certainly could have been less close had we blocked better on that Prognosis turn. We would have just won with a very good Blood Rush Bellow. But overall, our deck was looking a little thin. We did have a Blood Rush Bellow left in it that we would have found eventually. I do think we could have done a better job just monitoring the Go Again in our deck, making sure that we are putting Pulpings and Wild Rights back into our deck rather than sort of playing them recklessly, haphazardly. But we do get there, and a lot of that is just off the back of doing more damage and getting more value than New did. And I think that is how we want to approach this matchup, is just outvalue her. Even if she's playing those reactions and taking cards out of our hand and out of our deck, that very well might not be enough to get her. There could be, but I think through my testing, I have had much better success by just not blocking her and making her out-damage me, making her outvalue Kayo, than I have trying to play the mid-range game and block and get my hand stripped by disruption. So I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you learned something. If so, be sure to take that like button to Pound Town. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free. It helps me out. But no matter what you do, catch me back here next week for more daily FaB gameplay, more Mistveil heroes. I should have some draft reviews available as I need to learn how to draft the set in preparation for US Nationals. But until next week, have a great weekend and take care.